Ethan Walker had everything: wealth, success, a penthouse view of Atlanta's glittering skyline. But when he spotted a woman holding a baby at the airport, a woman with eyes full of hurt and a child with his unmistakable grey-green gaze, his perfect world shattered in an instant. She didn't run. She didn't hide. Instead, Naomi gave him one chance, one fragile, terrifying chance to prove he'd changed. But his mother had other plans. Whispers of gold diggers and traps echoed through marble hallways, and the weight of his past mistakes threatened to crush the family he never knew he'd lost. Could a man who once chose boardrooms over bedtime stories earn back the trust of the woman he abandoned, or would his second chance slip through his fingers like sand? Subscribe and comment below if you believe people can truly change, because this story is about to show you what happens when love demands more than words. It demands proof. The automatic doors slid open with a mechanical hiss. Cool airport air washed over Ethan Walker's face as he stepped into the terminal, pulling his leather carry-on behind him. The wheels clicked against the polished floor in a steady rhythm. He checked his watch. 2 hours until boarding. Plenty of time. Around him, travelers moved in every direction. A family with 3 young children hurried past. An elderly couple sat holding hands near the window. Announcements echoed from overhead speakers, calling passengers to distant gates. Ethan had seen this same scene 100 times before. Airports were like second homes to him now. He loosened his tie slightly and headed toward the security checkpoint. London was waiting. Another deal, another property, another week away from Atlanta. It was the life he'd built. Successful, profitable, and somehow always pulling him away from the things that once mattered. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Marcus Hill, his business partner, probably wondering if he'd made it to the airport yet. Ethan started to reach for it when something made him stop. Someone in the crowd caught his eye. A woman stood about 30 feet away, near the coffee shop. She wore a simple yellow sundress and carried a large bag over one shoulder. Her dark curls were pulled back, revealing a face he would have recognized anywhere even after 2 years. His breath caught in his chest. Naomi. Naomi Brooks. The woman he'd loved and lost. The woman who'd left him when he'd been too blind to see what he was throwing away. His hand went slack on the handle of his suitcase. She was holding a baby. The child couldn't have been more than a year old, dressed in tiny overalls with a white shirt underneath. The baby's small hands reached up toward Naomi's face and she smiled. That warm, genuine smile Ethan remembered so well. She bounced the child gently, whispering something that made the baby giggle. Ethan's feet seemed to root themselves to the floor. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The sounds of the airport faded into a dull hum around him. The baby turned its head, and Ethan's heart stopped completely. Even from this distance, he could see the eyes, grey-green like looking into a mirror that reflected back through time. The shape of the face, the tiny nose, the way the baby's mouth curved when it smiled. It was him. It was his face, his features miniaturized and softened but unmistakable. His daughter. He had a daughter. The realization hit him like a physical blow. His knees went weak. All those months ago, when Naomi had tried to talk to him, when she'd said she needed to tell him something important, he'd been too busy, too focused on the Tokyo deal, the New York investors, the expansion plans. He'd promised they would talk later. He'd promised so many things. And then, she'd been gone. He'd come home one evening to find half the apartment empty. Her clothes, her books, her art supplies all vanished. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter, simple words that had felt like knives. "I can't do this anymore. I need someone who's actually here. I'm sorry." He'd called. She hadn't answered. He'd texted. Nothing. After a few weeks, he'd told himself it was for the best. She deserved someone better, someone who could give her the attention she needed. He'd thrown himself into work even harder, trying to forget the way she'd laughed at his terrible jokes, the way she'd curled up against him on quiet Sunday mornings, the way she'd made him feel like maybe he could be more than just his bank account. But now, watching her with their child, all of that came rushing back. The regret, the loneliness, the hollow ache he'd tried so hard to ignore. Only now, it was 1,000 times worse, because he could see exactly what he'd lost. Naomi shifted the baby to her other hip. She glanced around the terminal, probably looking for her gate. Her eyes swept past him, moved on, then snapped back. She'd seen him. For a moment, neither of them moved. They stood frozen, two people caught in the current of a busy airport, with an ocean of unspoken words between them. The baby babbled happily, unaware of the tension crackling through the space. Then Naomi did something Ethan didn't expect. She didn't run. She didn't turn away or try to hide. Instead, she gave him a small, sad smile, just a slight curve of her lips, touched with sorrow and something else he couldn't quite name. Acceptance, maybe, or resignation. She shifted her bag higher on her shoulder and started walking toward the cafe area. Not toward him exactly, but not away either. An invitation, quiet and careful. Ethan's phone buzzed again in his pocket. London, the meeting, the millions of dollars waiting on his signature. None of it mattered. Nothing in the world mattered except the woman in the yellow dress and the baby with his eyes. He grabbed his suitcase and followed. The cafe smelled like fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls. Small tables dotted the space, most of them occupied by travelers tapping on laptops or scrolling through phones. Naomi had chosen a table near the back, away from the main flow of foot traffic. She'd set her bag down and was arranging the baby in her lap when Ethan reached her. "Hi," he said. His voice came out rougher than he intended. "Hi, Ethan." Her voice was soft, measured. She didn't sound angry or bitter, just tired. "I wondered if we'd ever run into each other. Can I—" He gestured to the empty chair across from her. "Can I sit?" She nodded. "Of course." He lowered himself into the chair slowly, like any sudden movement might shatter this fragile moment. His eyes kept drifting to the baby, who was now chewing on the corner of a cloth book. Up close, the resemblance was even stronger. The slight widow's peak in the hairline, the shape of the ears. This was his child, his daughter. "Her name is Maya," Naomi said quietly, watching his face. "Maya Brooks. She just turned 1 last month." Maya. The name settled into his chest like a warm stone. "She's beautiful." "She is." Naomi's hand smoothed down Maya's back, a gesture so natural and loving, it made Ethan's throat tighten. "She's the best thing that ever happened to me." Silence stretched between them. So many questions crowded Ethan's mind that he didn't know where to start. "Why didn't you tell me? How could you keep this from me? How could I have been so blind?" But what came out was simpler. "I should have been there." Naomi looked up at him. Her brown eyes, which he'd once been able to read like a book, were harder to decipher now, guarded. "You weren't there for a lot of things, Ethan." The words stung because they were true. "I know. I was stupid. I was so focused on building the business that I forgot—" He stopped, struggling for the right words. "I forgot about building a life. I tried to tell you." Her voice remained calm, but he heard the old hurt underneath it. "That night, before you left for Tokyo, I told you I needed to talk about something important. You said we'd talk when you got back, but when you got back, you were already planning the next trip." I remember. The shame burned in his gut. "I remember everything. Coming home and finding you gone." He had to stop again, swallowing hard. "I'm so sorry, Naomi. I'm sorry I wasn't the man you needed me to be." Maya dropped her book and reached for Naomi's necklace, a simple silver chain with a small pendant. Naomi gently redirected her tiny hands. "You want to hold her?" The question caught him off guard. Yes, if that's okay." "It's okay." Naomi stood and carefully transferred Maya into his arms, guiding his hands to support her properly. "Watch her head." There you go. The weight of his daughter in his arms was the most terrifying and wonderful thing Ethan had ever experienced. She was so small, so warm, so completely real. Maya looked up at him with curious eyes, his eyes, and grabbed a fistful of his tie. "Hey there," he whispered. His voice cracked. "Hey, Maya. I'm your—" The word caught in his throat. "I'm Ethan." "She's pretty friendly," Naomi said, settling back into her chair. "She loves meeting new people." But Ethan wasn't new, not really. He was her father, even if he'd missed the first year of her life, even if she had no idea who he was. The realization made his chest ache with a fierce, protective love he'd never felt before. Maya tugged on his tie and made a happy, gurgling sound. Then she smiled, a big, gummy smile that lit up her whole face. Ethan felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. He didn't try to hide them. "She has your smile," Naomi said softly. "Whenever she's happy, really happy, she smiles just like you used to." "Used to? Before everything got so busy? Before you stopped smiling like you meant it?" Ethan looked up at her. "I'm not busy right now. I'm supposed to be on a flight to London in 2 hours, but I'm not going." "Ethan, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do." He held Maya a little closer. "I've missed enough. I won't miss any more." Naomi studied him for a long moment. She reached over and gently touched Maya's foot, which was kicking happily in the air. "I never wanted to keep her from you. I just didn't know how to reach you. You seemed so far away, even when you were standing right in front of me. And then after I left, I didn't think, she paused. I didn't think you'd want the complication. A complication? The word came out sharper than he intended. Naomi, she's not a complication. She's... He looked down at Maya, who was now trying to put his watch in her mouth. She's everything. You're both everything. Her eyes softened slightly. You sound different. I feel different. It was true. Something had shifted inside him the moment he'd seen them. All the priorities that had seemed so important 5 minutes ago, the deals, the properties, the endless pursuit of more, had rearranged themselves. This was what mattered. This was what he should have been fighting for all along. An announcement echoed through the terminal, calling passengers for a flight to Miami. Naomi glanced at the clock on the wall. Our flight to Charleston leaves in 40 minutes. My mum's expecting us. Charleston? Ethan felt a sudden panic. He'd just found them. He couldn't lose them again so quickly. When do you come back? End of the week. It's just a visit. She hesitated. You could come by the apartment when we get back, if you want, to see Maya. What about you? The question came out before he could stop it. Do you want me to come by? Naomi was quiet for a moment. Maya squirmed in Ethan's arms, and Naomi reached over to adjust her position. Their hands touched briefly, and Ethan felt electricity shoot up his arm. She must have felt it too because she pulled back quickly. I want Maya to know her father, she said finally. If you're serious about being in her life, really in her life, then yes, come by. She pulled her phone from her bag and handed it to him. Put your number in, I'll text you my address. He awkwardly managed to type with one hand while keeping Maya secure with the other. His current number was different from the one she'd known before. He'd changed it 6 months ago after getting tired of spam calls, another thing that had kept them apart. Done. He handed her phone back. Naomi took it and stood, gathering her bag. She held out her arms for Maya. We should head to the gate. Ethan didn't want to let go. He looked down at his daughter, memorizing every detail of her face, the tiny dimple in her left cheek, the wispy curls at her temples, the way she smelled like baby shampoo and something sweet he couldn't identify. I'll see you soon, okay? He whispered to her. I promise. He carefully transferred Maya back to Naomi's arms. The baby immediately snuggled against her mother's chest, content and trusting. Naomi settled her against her shoulder and picked up the diaper bag. Saturday, Naomi said. Come by Saturday afternoon around 2. We should be back Friday night, and that gives us a day to settle in. Saturday at 2. I'll be there. He would cancel everything, reschedule everything. Nothing would stop him from being there Saturday at 2. Naomi started to turn away, then stopped. She looked back at him, and for just a second, he saw something in her eyes that looked like hope. Ethan? Yeah? I'm glad we ran into each other. Me too. The words didn't come close to expressing what he felt. Me too, Naomi. He watched them walk away through the crowd. Naomi's yellow dress disappeared and reappeared between other travelers. Maya's small hand patted her mother's shoulder, and then they were gone, swallowed up by the terminal. Ethan stood there for a long moment, his arms still feeling the phantom weight of his daughter. People flowed around him like water around a stone. Finally, he pulled out his phone and pulled up Marcus's number. Hey, man, Marcus answered on the first ring. You on the plane yet? No, I'm not going to London. What? Ethan, we've been working on this deal for 3 months. The clients are expecting Sen Johnson. He knows the property as well as I do. I need to stay in Atlanta. There was a pause. This doesn't sound like you. What's going on? Ethan closed his eyes. I just found out I have a daughter. The silence on the other end stretched out. Then, say that again? I have a daughter. Her name is Maya. She's 1 year old, and I just held her for the first time. His voice caught. I missed her entire first year, Marcus. I won't miss any more. Holy... Marcus exhaled loudly. Okay, we'll handle London. You do what you need to do. Thank you. But Ethan, we're going to talk about this. Really talk about it. Soon. I know. I'll call you later. He hung up and looked down at the text message that had just come through from an unknown number. This is Naomi. My address is 847 Maple Grove, apt 2B. See you Saturday. He saved her contact information, his thumb hovering over her name on the screen. 2 years ago he'd had her number memorized. He'd called her every day, sometimes twice, and somehow he'd still managed to lose her. Not this time. He picked up his suitcase and headed back toward the exit. The automatic doors opened, and the warm Atlanta sunshine hit his face. His car was in the garage waiting to take him home to an empty penthouse. But Saturday he would walk through a different door, into Naomi's apartment, into his daughter's life, into the family he should have been building all along. Ethan sat in his car in the airport parking garage for almost an hour, just staring at his phone. Naomi's contact information glowed on the screen. He wanted to call her right now, to hear her voice again, to ask 1,000 questions about Maya. What was her favorite toy? What did she eat? When did she take her first steps? But he didn't call. Naomi had given him a time and a place. Pushing for more right now would only prove he hadn't really changed, that he was still the same man who couldn't wait, couldn't be patient, couldn't let things unfold naturally. Instead, he drove home through Atlanta's evening traffic. The city lights blurred past his windows. The radio played soft jazz that he barely heard. His mind kept replaying the moment when he'd first seen Maya, the shock of recognition, the weight of her in his arms. He had a daughter. The penthouse felt too big when he finally walked through the door, too empty. The cleaning service had been in today. Everything was perfectly arranged, perfectly sterile. Modern furniture in shades of grey and white, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a kitchen he rarely cooked in, a dining table that never saw dinner parties. This was what he'd chosen over Naomi, this expensive emptiness. He dropped his suitcase by the door and went to the window. Atlanta spread out below him, thousands of lights marking thousands of lives being lived. Somewhere out there, Naomi was packing for Charleston. Maya was probably already asleep, dreaming baby dreams he'd never know about. His phone rang. Marcus. "Tell me everything," his friend said without preamble. Ethan sank onto the leather couch and did. He told Marcus about seeing Naomi at the airport, about Maya's eyes, about holding his daughter for the first time, about how nothing else seemed to matter anymore. Marcus listened without interrupting, which was unusual for him. "So what are you going to do?" Marcus asked, when Ethan finally fell silent. "I'm going to be her father. Really be her father, not just a name on a birth certificate." "And Naomi?" Ethan closed his eyes. "I don't know. I still love her, Marcus. I never stopped, but I hurt her badly. I don't know if she can forgive me." "Did she seem angry when you talked to her?" "No, that's almost worse. She seemed resigned, like she'd already accepted that I'd let her down." "Then you show her she was wrong." Marcus's voice was firm. "You show up Saturday, and you keep showing up, not with money or grand gestures. Just be present. That's what you didn't do before." "I know. And Ethan, don't make promises you can't keep. If you're going to do this, really do it. That little girl deserves better than a part-time father." "I will." The words felt like a vow. "I won't let them down again." After they hung up, Ethan sat in the dark apartment for a long time. He thought about all the choices that had led him here, the long hours, the constant travel, the belief that success meant always saying yes to the next opportunity. He'd built an empire and lost a family in the process. Saturday felt impossibly far away. The days crawled by. Ethan tried to work, but found himself staring at his computer screen without seeing it. He attended meetings, but barely heard what was being discussed. His assistant, Jennifer, asked if he was feeling well. He told her he was fine, just tired. Thursday evening, he found himself in a baby store in Buckhead. The place was enormous, filled with more baby equipment than he'd known existed. He wandered the aisles feeling lost and overwhelmed, car seats with complicated strap systems, bottles in dozens of shapes and sizes, toys that claimed to boost brain development. "Can I help you find something?" A sales associate approached, smiling kindly. She was maybe 60, with grey hair and a name tag that said, Dorothy. "I don't know," Ethan admitted. "I just found out I have a 1-year-old daughter. I want to bring her something on Saturday, but I don't know what she'd like." Dorothy's expression softened. "That's wonderful, honey. Becoming a father is such a blessing. Does she have a favorite character? Favorite color?" "I don't know." The admission made him feel like a failure already. "I don't know anything about her except that she's beautiful and perfect." "Well, you can't go wrong with books. Every child loves books." Dorothy led him to a section filled with colorful board books. "These are sturdy enough for little ones who are still learning to be gentle. And this one." She pulled down a book with a soft fabric cover. "This has different textures on each page. Babies love exploring those." Ethan took the book. It had a bunny on the cover. "I'll take it." "Just one?" He looked at the shelves. "I'll take 10. No, 20. She should have lots of books." Dorothy laughed. "I like your enthusiasm, but maybe start with 5 or 6. You'll be visiting again, right? You can bring more each time." It made sense, but part of him wanted to buy out the entire store, to make up for lost time with piles of presents. But that wasn't what Maya needed. She needed him to show up and be present, like Marcus had said. He ended up with 6 books, a soft stuffed elephant and a set of stacking cups that Dorothy promised would be a hit. As she rang up his purchases, she said, "Your daughter is lucky to have a father who cares this much." "I'm the lucky one," Ethan replied. "I just hope I don't mess it up." "You will mess up." Dorothy smiled at his startled expression. "All parents do. The trick is to keep showing up anyway, keep trying, keep loving. That's what children really need." He carried her words home with him, turning them over in his mind. Keep showing up, keep trying, keep loving. He could do that. He had to do that. Friday evening, he stood in front of his closet trying to decide what to wear tomorrow. Everything looked too formal, too much like the businessman he'd been. Suits and dress shirts and expensive watches. Finally, he pulled out a pair of jeans he rarely wore and a simple blue sweater. Casual, approachable, like someone who might sit on the floor and play with blocks. That night he barely slept. He kept imagining how tomorrow would go. Naomi opening the door, Maya in her arms, maybe shy at first. He'd be patient. He'd let her warm up to him. He wouldn't push. But he also imagined it going wrong. Maya crying when she saw him. Naomi changing her mind, deciding she'd made a mistake inviting him over. The door closing in his face before he even got inside. At 1 in the morning, he got up and went to his home office. He opened his laptop and started researching. Child development milestones. Age-appropriate toys. Strategies for bonding with a 1-year-old. The internet was full of advice, some of it conflicting, but he read it all. He wanted to do this right. When dawn finally broke over Atlanta, Ethan was still awake, running on coffee and nervous energy. He showered and dressed carefully, looked at himself in the mirror. The man looking back seemed different somehow. Scared, hopeful, real in a way he hadn't felt in years. At noon, he couldn't wait any longer. He knew he was early, 2 hours early. But sitting in his apartment was driving him crazy. He grabbed the bag of gifts and headed for his car. Maple Grove was a quiet neighborhood in a less expensive part of Atlanta, the kind of place where kids played on the sidewalks and neighbors knew each other's names. Ethan found the building easily, a 3-story structure with cream-colored siding and green shutters, not fancy but well-maintained. The small front yard had flowers planted along the walkway. He sat in his car, staring at the building. 2B, 2nd floor. Naomi was up there right now. Maya was up there. His family. But it was only 12:15. Way too early. Showing up this far ahead of time would make him look desperate or pushy. He forced himself to start the car and drive away, heading to a nearby coffee shop to kill time. The next hour and 45 minutes were the longest of his life. He ordered a coffee he didn't drink. He tried to read the news on his phone but couldn't focus. He checked the time every 2 minutes. Other customers came and went, living their normal Saturday lives while Ethan's entire world was about to change. At exactly 1:55, he got back in his car and drove to Maple Grove. This time, he made himself get out. He grabbed the gift bag and walked up the path to the front door. The directory showed Brooks N in apartment 2B. He pressed the buzzer. "Hello?" Naomi's voice crackled through the intercom. "It's Ethan." A pause. Then the door buzzed open. "Come on up." 2nd floor. The stairway was narrow but clean. He climbed slowly, his heart pounding. At the top of the stairs, he saw an open door. Naomi stood in the doorway, Maya on her hip. She was wearing jeans and a soft pink sweater. Her curls were loose around her shoulders. She looked tired but beautiful. Maya was dressed in purple leggings and a white shirt with a cartoon elephant on it. When she saw Ethan, she didn't cry or hide her face. She just looked at him with curious eyes. "Hi," Naomi said. "Right on time." "Hi." His voice came out steady despite his nerves. "Thank you for inviting me." She stepped back, opening the door wider. "Come in." Ethan walked into Naomi's home, into his daughter's world, into the chance he never thought he'd get. The door closed softly behind him, and somewhere deep in his chest, something that had been broken for 2 years began, very slowly, to heal. The apartment was small, but warm. Sunlight streamed through the windows, lighting up a space that felt lived in and loved. A worn couch sat against one wall, covered with a colorful throw blanket. Toys were scattered across the floor. Soft blocks, plastic rings, a stuffed giraffe with one ear chewed. Photos covered the walls, most of them of Maya at different ages. Ethan could see her progression from tiny newborn to the smiling 1-year-old looking at him now. "It's not much," Naomi said, closing the door behind him. "But it's home. It's perfect." And he meant it. This place had more life in it than his entire penthouse. "It feels like you." She gave him a small smile. "You can put your jacket on the hook there. Want something to drink?" I have water, juice, coffee. I'm okay, thank you. He set down the gift bag and shrugged off his jacket, hanging it carefully. How was Charleston? Good. My mom loved seeing Maya. She keeps asking when I'm going to move back home. Naomi shifted Maya to her other hip. But Atlanta is home now. I have my job at the bookstore, my friends here, and my little jewelry business is finally starting to make some money. That's great. I always knew you were talented. An awkward silence fell. Maya broke it by reaching out toward Ethan, opening and closing her small fist. It took him a moment to realize she wanted him. She wants you to hold her, Naomi said, sounding surprised. She's not usually this friendly with people she's only met once. Is that okay? Of course. Ethan stepped forward and carefully took Maya from Naomi's arms. She settled against his chest easily, her small hand grabbing his sweater. She smelled like baby lotion and something sweet. She looked up at him with those gray-green eyes and smiled. His heart melted completely. Hey, Maya, he whispered. I brought you some presents. Want to see? Maya babbled something that sounded like agreement. Naomi gestured to the couch. Here, sit down. Make yourself comfortable. Ethan sat, keeping Maya secure in his lap. She was heavier than she'd been at the airport, more solid. Or maybe he was just more aware of her weight now, the realness of her. Naomi settled into the armchair across from them, watching carefully. I didn't know what she'd like, Ethan said, reaching for the gift bag. The lady at the store helped me pick things out. He pulled out the first book, a board book about farm animals. Maya grabbed it immediately and tried to put the corner in her mouth. Ethan gently redirected her, opening the book instead. Look, there's a cow. Can you say cow? She's not talking yet, Naomi said. Just babbling. The doctor says that's normal. Right, of course. He felt stupid for not knowing that, but he kept turning pages, pointing at the animals. Maya seemed fascinated by the pictures, slapping her hand against each one. Her excitement made him smile. He showed her the other books, the stacking cups and finally the stuffed elephant. Maya hugged the elephant tight, making happy, squealing sounds. I think she likes it, Naomi said. Her voice was softer now, less guarded. That was really thoughtful, Ethan. I wanted to bring something. I know it doesn't make up for... He stopped. I just wanted her to have something from me. She will treasure it, even if she doesn't understand yet. Naomi leaned forward. Do you want to know about her? Everything you missed? Yes, everything, please. So Naomi told him. She told him about finding out she was pregnant 2 weeks after she'd left, how terrified she'd been, how she'd called him twice, but hung up before he answered, not knowing what to say. She described the pregnancy. Easy at first, harder toward the end. Her mother had come to stay with her for the last month. I went into labor on a Tuesday morning, Naomi said, 3 weeks early. My mum drove me to the hospital, and I had her that evening. 6 pounds, 4 ounces. She came out screaming and she didn't stop for 2 hours. She smiled at the memory. The nurses said she had strong lungs. Ethan listened, trying to imagine it all. Naomi in the hospital, alone except for her mother, bringing Maya home to this small apartment. Those first terrifying nights with a newborn. He should have been there for all of it. What was her first word? He asked. Mama. About a month ago. She says it all the time now. Naomi's eyes softened as she looked at her daughter. She also says bar for bottle and makes this sound that I think means more. She's starting to understand language, even if she can't say much yet. When did she start walking? She's not walking yet, just pulling herself up on furniture. She crawls everywhere, though, fast. I have to baby-proof everything. Naomi laughed. Last week she crawled right into the kitchen and tried to open the cabinet under the sink. I put locks on everything after that. Maya squirmed in Ethan's lap, dropping the elephant. She leaned forward, reaching for the stacking cups on the floor. Ethan held her steady while she stretched. You can put her down, Naomi said. She likes to explore. Ethan carefully set Maya on the floor. She immediately crawled toward her toy basket, moving with surprising speed. She pulled out a set of plastic keys and shook them, delighted by the noise. She's beautiful, Ethan said. Smart too. I can see it in her eyes. She is. Pride filled Naomi's voice. She's everything to me, Ethan. Everything. I know. He watched Maya bang the keys against the floor, completely absorbed in her game. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry for all of it. If I could go back... You can't. Naomi's voice was gentle, but firm. We can't go back. We can only go forward. Then let me go forward with you, both of you. He turned to look at her. I want to be in her life, really in it. Not just weekend visits or holidays. I want to know everything about her. What makes her laugh, what scares her, what she loves. I want to be her father. Naomi was quiet for a long moment. Maya crawled back to Ethan, pulling herself up using his leg. She stood there, wobbling slightly, grinning up at him with two tiny bottom teeth showing. "Dada," Maya said suddenly. Ethan froze. Did she just... "She's been saying that sound for a week," Naomi said quickly. "It doesn't mean anything yet. She says it to everyone. The mailman, my neighbor, her stuffed animals." But Ethan barely heard her. Maya had called him Dada. Even if it was just babbling, even if she didn't understand what it meant, she'd said it. He reached down and scooped her up, holding her close. "That's right," he whispered. "I'm your Dada. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." Maya patted his face with her small hand. Then she leaned forward and pressed her open mouth against his cheek. A wet, sloppy baby kiss. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "Sorry," he said, wiping them away quickly. "I'm not usually..." "It's okay." Naomi's own eyes looked suspiciously bright. "She has that effect on people." They spent the rest of the afternoon on the floor, playing with Maya's toys. Ethan stacked blocks so Maya could knock them down. He made the toy telephone ring and pretended to have conversations that made her giggle. He read her the farm animal book 3 times because she kept bringing it back to him. Naomi watched from the couch, occasionally joining in but mostly observing. Ethan was aware of her eyes on him, evaluating, judging whether he was serious about this. He was determined to pass whatever test she was giving him. Around 4 o'clock, Maya started rubbing her eyes and getting fussy. "Nap time," Naomi said, standing. "She usually sleeps for an hour or so. Should I go?" Ethan tried to hide his disappointment. "You don't have to, unless you want to." Naomi picked up Maya, who was now whimpering and clinging to her mother. "I'll just put her down. It only takes a few minutes." She disappeared into a small room off the main space. Ethan could hear her singing softly, a lullaby he didn't recognize. Her voice was beautiful, just like he remembered. He'd loved listening to her sing while she painted or cooked dinner. He'd loved so many things about her that he'd taken for granted. He stood and walked around the apartment, looking at everything more closely now. The photos on the walls told Maya's story. Her first bath, tiny and red-faced in a baby tub. Her first smile, gummy and huge. Her first taste of solid food, with sweet potatoes smeared all over her face. Naomi was in some of the pictures too, looking exhausted but happy. There was one photo that made him stop. Naomi in the hospital bed holding a newborn Maya. She looked so young and tired and scared, and completely alone. His chest ached looking at it. "That was about an hour after she was born," Naomi said quietly. She'd emerged from the bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. "My mom took it. You look beautiful." I looked terrified. "That too." He turned to face her. "But also strong. You did this by yourself, Naomi. You grew a whole person and brought her into the world and took care of her alone. You're amazing." She crossed her arms, not quite meeting his eyes. "I did what I had to do, what any mother would do. Not every woman could have done what you did, especially not alone." He took a step closer. "And you didn't have to let me back in. You could have told me to leave at the airport. You could have kept Maya from me completely. But you didn't. You're her father. She deserves to know you." "What about you?" The question hung in the air between them. "Do you think I deserve another chance?" Naomi finally looked at him. Her brown eyes were complicated, hurt mixed with hope, anger mixed with affection. "I don't know yet. You hurt me, Ethan. You made me feel like I wasn't important, like I wasn't enough to make you stay. You were always enough, more than enough. I was just too stupid and blind to see it." "Words are easy." Her voice was soft but firm. "You said a lot of nice things back then too. You said you loved me. You said we'd build a life together, but you were never there when it mattered." "I know." The shame burned in his chest. "I know I let you down, but I'm different now. Or I'm trying to be. I want to prove it to you." "Then prove it. Don't tell me you've changed. Show me." She moved to the window, looking out at the street below. Maya needs consistency. She needs someone who shows up and keeps showing up. Can you do that? Yes. Even when work gets busy. Even when something more exciting comes along. Yes. He moved to stand beside her. "I cancelled the London trip. I've already started delegating more at the office. Marcus is handling things I used to think only I could do. And you know what? The company is fine. Everything I thought was so crucial. It's not. This is crucial. You and Maya. This is what matters." Naomi was quiet, processing his words. Outside, a family walked past pushing a stroller. An older couple sat on their porch holding hands. Normal life happening all around them while they stood in this moment, trying to figure out if broken things could be fixed. I want to believe you, she finally said. Part of me really wants to. What's the other part saying? That I'm setting myself up to get hurt again? That I'm being naive? She turned to face him. I rebuilt my life after you left, Ethan. It was hard, but I did it. I learned to be okay by myself, to not need you, and now here you are and I can feel myself. She stopped, biting her lip. Feel yourself what? Wanting things I shouldn't want. Her voice was barely a whisper, hoping for things that might not be possible. The air between them felt charged. Ethan wanted to reach out, to pull her close, to tell her that everything she hoped for was possible, but he held himself back. This wasn't about what he wanted. It was about earning back what he'd lost. Take it slow, he said. I'll prove myself. However long it takes. I'll be here for Maya and I'll respect whatever boundaries you need. Okay. She nodded slowly. Okay. We can try. A cry came from the bedroom. Maya was awake. That was a short nap, Naomi said, but she was smiling as she went to get her daughter. She came back carrying a cranky-looking Maya. The baby's hair was sticking up on one side, and she had red marks on her cheek from the sheets. She saw Ethan and reached for him immediately. She really likes you, Naomi said, handing her over. That's good. That makes this easier. Maya laid her head on Ethan's shoulder, still half asleep. He rubbed her back gently, the way he'd seen Naomi do earlier. She sighed and snuggled closer. Something inside him shifted, settled. This was where he belonged. Do you have plans for dinner? Naomi asked. I was going to make spaghetti. Nothing fancy, but you're welcome to stay if you want. I'd love to. He tried not to sound too eager. Can I help? You can keep Maya entertained while I cook. She gets fussy if I put her in the high chair too early. So Ethan sat on the couch with Maya, while Naomi moved around the small kitchen. She put water on to boil and started heating sauce in a pan. The apartment filled with the smell of garlic and tomatoes. Maya played with Ethan's fingers, bending them back and forth, fascinated by how they moved. She's going to be a scientist, Ethan said. Look how curious she is about how things work. Or an engineer, or a teacher, or anything she wants to be. Naomi smiled at them from the kitchen. She's got time to decide. Whatever she wants to be, I'll support it. I want to be there for everything. First day of school, soccer games, science fairs, graduation. You're getting ahead of yourself. Right now, let's just focus on getting through dinner without her throwing food everywhere. Dinner was simple but perfect. Naomi had a high chair that she pulled up to the small table. Maya sat in it, banging her spoon against the tray, while Naomi cut up tiny pieces of pasta for her. Ethan helped set the table, feeling strangely domestic, like this was something they did every night, like he'd always been part of this little family. Maya ate messily, getting sauce all over her face and hands. Ethan couldn't stop watching her, amazed by every little thing she did. The way she picked up the pasta pieces carefully between her thumb and finger. The way she opened her mouth like a baby bird when Naomi offered her a piece of bread. The way she laughed when she dropped her spoon and it clattered on the floor. You're staring, Naomi said, but she didn't sound annoyed. She sounded amused. I can't help it. She's perfect. She's covered in marinara sauce. Perfectly covered in marinara sauce. Naomi laughed, really laughed, and it was the best sound Ethan had heard in 2 years. For a moment, they were just 3 people sharing a meal, a family. Even if they weren't really that yet, even if there were still so many things to work through, right now in this moment it felt real. After dinner, Ethan helped clean up while Naomi gave Maya a bath. He could hear splashing and giggling from the bathroom. He washed dishes at the sink, looking around at this life Naomi had built. The calendar on the wall with Maya's doctor appointments marked in pink. The grocery list held to the fridge with alphabet magnets. The small herb garden on the windowsill. Every detail spoke of care and attention and love. When Naomi emerged with a clean Maya wrapped in a towel, the baby was yawning. Someone's ready for bed, Naomi said. Her bedtime is 7:30. I should probably get her into pajamas. I should go. Ethan dried his hands on a dish towel. Let you do your nighttime routine. You could stay if you want. Naomi shifted Maya in her arms. You could read her a bedtime story. She'd like that. The offer felt like a gift. I'd love to. He followed Naomi into Maya's room. It was tiny but cozy, painted a soft yellow. A crib stood against one wall covered with a mobile of stars and moons. A changing table held neatly folded clothes and diapers. A bookshelf was crammed with more books than Ethan would have thought a 1-year-old could need. Naomi dressed Maya in footy pajamas, covered with little elephants, matching her stuffed animal from earlier. Then she handed the baby to Ethan, along with a well-worn copy of Goodnight Moon. She loves this one, Naomi said. We read it every night. Ethan settled into the rocking chair in the corner with Maya in his lap. She was already drowsy, her eyes half closed. He opened the book and started to read. In the great green room there was a telephone and a red balloon. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. Maya's eyes drifted closed. Her breathing slowed and deepened. By the time he reached, "Good night, nobody," she was asleep, her small body heavy and relaxed against his chest. He looked up to find Naomi watching from the doorway, her hand over her heart. "She fell asleep so fast," he whispered. "She feels safe with you." Naomi's voice was thick with emotion. "I can see it." Carefully, so carefully, Ethan stood and carried Maya to her crib. He laid her down on her back like he'd seen in all his internet research. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. He watched her for a long moment. This miracle of a little person, his daughter, his Maya. Naomi stepped into the room and adjusted the blanket, making sure Maya was comfortable. Then she switched on a small nightlight that cast stars across the ceiling. They stood together looking down at the sleeping baby, and for the first time since the airport, Ethan felt like maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. They tiptoed out of the room, leaving the door cracked open. In the living room, Ethan gathered his jacket. "Thank you," he said, "for today, for letting me be part of this. You did good," Naomi said simply. "She really connected with you. Can I come back? Tomorrow, maybe? Or is that too soon?" She hesitated, then smiled. "Tomorrow is fine. Maybe we could take her to the park. There's a nice one a few blocks away. She loves the swings. I'd like that." He wanted to hug her goodbye, but wasn't sure if he should. "What time? 10 o'clock? Before it gets too hot. I'll be here at 10. He shrugged on his jacket and moved toward the door. Naomi followed, her arms crossed over her chest. At the threshold, he turned back. "Naomi, yeah? I meant what I said earlier. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to show up and keep showing up. For Maya and for you, if you'll let me." Something softened in her expression. "I want to believe that." "Then believe it. I won't let you down again. I promise." He left before he could say anything else, before he could push too hard or ask for too much. The evening air was cool as he walked to his car. He sat behind the wheel for a moment, looking up at the lit window of apartment 2B. He could see Naomi moving around inside, tidying up, living her life, a life he wanted to be part of again. He pulled out his phone and texted Marcus. "Spent the whole day with Maya and Naomi. Best day of my life. I'm going back tomorrow." Marcus replied, almost immediately, "That's my boy, keep showing up." Ethan smiled and started the car. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. The next morning, Ethan woke up at 6, even though he'd set his alarm for 8. He couldn't sleep. He was too excited, too nervous, too full of feelings he didn't know how to name. He made coffee and stood at his window watching the sunrise over Atlanta. Somewhere across the city, Maya was probably just waking up. Naomi would be getting her out of the crib, changing her diaper, making her breakfast, and in a few hours he'd be there with them. He showered and dressed carefully, jeans again, and a comfortable t-shirt. Sneakers good for walking. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw a different man than the one who'd stood here just 2 days ago. That man had been successful, but hollow. This man had purpose. At 9:30, unable to wait any longer, he headed out. He stopped at a coffee shop and bought 3 drinks, a large caramel latte for Naomi. He remembered it was her favorite. An orange juice for Maya, and a black coffee for himself. He also grabbed a box of muffins because he didn't know if they'd had breakfast yet. He arrived at Maple Grove at exactly 10 o'clock. This time, he didn't hesitate. He climbed the stairs and knocked on the door. Naomi answered quickly, as if she'd been waiting near the door. She was wearing jean shorts and a white tank top, her hair pulled up in a high ponytail. She looked younger like this, more like the woman he'd fallen in love with 3 years ago. "Good morning," she said, smiling. "Right on time again. I brought coffee and juice for Maya and muffins in case you guys haven't eaten." "We ate, but I'll never say no to a muffin." She took the coffee from him. "Come in. I'm just getting her shoes on." Maya was sitting on the floor in purple shorts and a yellow shirt. When she saw Ethan, she squealed and crawled to him as fast as she could. He scooped her up, and she immediately grabbed his face with both hands. "Dada," she said clearly. Ethan looked at Naomi. She's been saying it all morning." Naomi's smile was soft. "I think she knows what it means now." Emotion swelled in Ethan's chest. "Hey, Maya Bear, you ready to go to the park?" "Park," Maya repeated, though it came out more like park. "She's in a talking mood today," Naomi said. She grabbed a large bag filled with snacks, water bottles, and baby supplies. "Fair warning, She gets cranky if she misses her 11 o'clock snack. Noted. They walked to the park together, Ethan carrying Maya on his shoulders. She grabbed fistfuls of his hair and laughed every time they passed under a tree branch. Naomi walked beside them, occasionally warning him to watch out for a low branch or pointing out a dog for Maya to see. The park was busy with other families enjoying the Sunday morning. Kids ran around the playground. Parents sat on benches scrolling their phones. A food truck sold ice cream at the edge of the parking lot. It was beautifully, perfectly ordinary. "There's the baby swings," Naomi said, pointing. "That's her favorite." They headed to the swing set. Ethan carefully lowered Maya into one of the bucket swings and started pushing gently. She kicked her legs and laughed, clearly delighted. Every time he pushed her forward, she'd look back at him with joy on her face. Every time she swung back to him, he'd say, "There she is," and she'd giggle. Naomi stood nearby, taking pictures on her phone. "I'll send you some of these," she offered. "Please, I want to document everything." After the swings, they explored the playground. Maya crawled through a small tunnel and came out the other side looking proud of herself. She pulled herself up at the little steering wheel and drove, making engine noises that were really just random babbling. She watched the bigger kids run around, her eyes wide with fascination. An older woman on a nearby bench smiled at them. "Your daughter is beautiful," she said to Ethan and Naomi. "Thank you," they said at the same time, then looked at each other, surprised. The woman chuckled. "She has the best of both of you. What a blessing." After she walked away, Naomi said quietly, "People are going to assume we're together. Does that bother you?" She was quiet for a moment, watching Maya try to climb a small step. "No, not really. I just don't want you to feel uncomfortable." "I'm not uncomfortable." He wanted to say more. That being mistaken for a family didn't bother him, because that's what he wanted them to be. But it was too soon. So he just added, "It feels natural, the three of us together." "It does," Naomi admitted softly. At 11, right on schedule, Maya started getting fussy. They found a shady spot under a tree, and Naomi spread out a blanket. She pulled out snacks, crackers, sliced apples, cheese cubes. Maya ate hungrily, stuffing food in her mouth with both hands. "Slow down, baby girl," Naomi said, laughing. "It's not going anywhere." Ethan leaned back on his elbows, watching them. Naomi was so natural with Maya, so patient and loving. She'd done this alone for a year. Every feeding, every diaper change, every sleepless night. She'd built this whole life for their daughter by herself, and she'd done it with grace. "You're an amazing mother," he said. Naomi looked up, surprised. "Thank you. I just do my best." "Your best is pretty incredible." She ducked her head, but he could see the pleased smile on her face. Maya finished her snacks and crawled into Naomi's lap, resting her head against her mother's chest. Her eyes started to droop. "Car nap time," Naomi said. "If we walk back now, she'll fall asleep on the way and I can transfer her to the crib." They packed up and headed back. Sure enough, by the time they reached Maple Grove, Maya was sound asleep in Ethan's arms. Naomi opened the apartment door quietly, and he carried Maya to her room, laying her gently in the crib. She didn't even stir. Back in the living room, Naomi poured them both glasses of water. They sat on the couch, leaving a respectable distance between them. The apartment was quiet except for the faint sounds of the neighborhood outside. "This was nice," Naomi said. "Today, she really loves being with you. I love being with her. With both of you." "Ethan," she turned to face him. "We should talk about what this is, what we're doing." His heart started beating faster. "Okay. You're her father. That's not going to change, and I'm glad. She deserves to have you in her life. But you and me," she gestured between them. "I need to know what you're expecting here." "I'm not expecting anything," he said carefully. "I know I hurt you. I know it's going to take time to rebuild trust. But I'm not going to lie to you, Naomi. I still love you. I never stopped loving you. And if there's any chance at all that we could be a family, all three of us, then I want to work toward that. That's what I'm afraid of." "What do you mean?" She pulled her knees up to her chest. "I'm afraid of falling for you again, of letting myself believe this can work, and then you go back to your old patterns, the long hours, the travel, the constantly being somewhere else. I don't think I could survive losing you twice. You won't lose me." He moved closer but didn't touch her. "I know you have no reason to believe me, but I'm different now. Seeing you at the airport, holding Maya for the first time, it was like waking up from a bad dream. Everything I thought mattered just didn't. The only thing that mattered was you two, and that hasn't changed. It's not going to change. People don't change that fast. Maybe they do, when they realize what they've lost, when they get a second chance they never thought they'd have. He took a deep breath. I'm not asking you to jump back into a relationship with me. I'm just asking you not to close that door completely. Let me prove myself. Let me show you I mean it. Naomi was quiet for a long time. Then she said, My friend Lena, she works at the bookstore with me. She thinks I'm crazy for letting you back in. She says you're just going to hurt me again. I'd like to prove her wrong. So would I. She looked at him, her brown eyes serious. Okay, we'll take it slow. You keep showing up for Maya. You prove you're serious about being her father, and we'll see where things go from there. But Ethan, her voice turned firm, I won't let Maya get attached to you just for you to disappear. If you're going to do this, you're all in. No half measures, no backing out when it gets hard or inconvenient. I'm all in, I promise. She nodded slowly. Okay then, let's see what happens. They sat together in comfortable silence, listening to Maya sleep in the next room. Outside, life continued. Cars driving by, neighbors talking, birds singing. But in this quiet moment, something fragile and hopeful was beginning to grow. Something that might, with time and care and patience, become strong enough to last. Ethan's phone buzzed. He pulled it out and saw a text from his mother. Haven't heard from you in a few days. Everything all right? He'd been so focused on Naomi and Maya that he'd completely forgotten about his mother. Grace Walker was probably wondering why he'd suddenly gone silent. He'd have to tell her. Soon. About Maya, about Naomi, about everything. He just hoped she would understand. The following week fell into a pattern that felt both new and natural. Ethan came by every day after work. Sometimes he'd stay for an hour, sometimes for the whole evening. He helped with dinner, played with Maya, read her bedtime stories. He learned her routines, the way she liked her bottles warmed to exactly the right temperature, the specific bedtime song Naomi sang every night, the funny face that always made her laugh. On Wednesday evening, as he was leaving after putting Maya to bed, Naomi walked him to the door. You've been here every day this week, she said. It wasn't an accusation, just an observation. Is that okay? Am I around too much? No, it's just... She leaned against the doorframe. You're really doing it. Showing up, being consistent. I told you I would. I know, but hearing it and seeing it are different things. She smiled. Maya's getting used to you. She looks for you now when she wakes up from her naps. The words warmed him from the inside out. Really? Really? This morning she crawled to the door and patted it. I think she thought you were coming over for breakfast. I could come for breakfast, if that's not too much. Naomi laughed. Let's not get crazy. But maybe this weekend, Saturday morning. I'd love that. As he drove home, Ethan knew he couldn't put off the conversation with his mother any longer. Grace Walker had always been protective of him, especially after his father died 5 years ago. She'd approved of Naomi at first, thought she was sweet and talented, but toward the end, before Naomi left, his mother had started making comments about them being too different and how Naomi might not fit into their world. He'd ignored those comments then. He wouldn't ignore them now. Thursday evening, instead of going to Naomi's, he drove to his mother's house in Buckhead. The large brick colonial sat behind iron gates, perfectly landscaped and imposing. He'd grown up in this house, but it had never felt as warm as Naomi's small apartment. Grace answered the door herself. She was 60, but looked younger, always perfectly put together. Tonight she wore cream-colored slacks and a silk blouse. Her silver hair was styled elegantly. Ethan, what a surprise! She kissed his cheek. I was beginning to think you'd forgotten about me. Sorry, Mom, I've been busy. So, I gathered from your very brief text messages. She led him to the sitting room. Can I get you something to drink? No, I'm fine. I actually need to talk to you about something. She settled into her favorite chair, studying him with sharp eyes. This sounds serious. Should I be worried? No, at least I hope not. He sat across from her, trying to figure out where to start. Do you remember Naomi Brooks? His mother's expression shifted slightly. Of course. The girl you were dating a few years ago. The one who left rather suddenly. She didn't leave suddenly. She left because I wasn't being the partner she needed. I see. Grace folded her hands in her lap. And why are we discussing her now? Because I ran into her at the airport last week, and I found out that I have a daughter. The silence that followed was heavy. His mother's face went through several emotions. Shock, confusion, something that might have been anger. A daughter, she finally said. You have a daughter with Naomi Brooks. Her name is Maya. She's 1 year old and she's perfect, Mom. Beautiful and smart and happy. And I've spent every day this week getting to know her. And Naomi just kept this from you? For an entire year? She tried to tell me. I was too busy to listen. too focused on work to pay attention to what was important. He leaned forward. This is my fault, not hers, and now I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to be the father Maya deserves. Grace was quiet for a long moment. Does Naomi want money? Is that what this is about? No. The question irritated him. She hasn't asked me for anything. Not a single thing. She's been raising Maya completely on her own, and she's doing an amazing job. She only agreed to let me be part of Maya's life because she thinks a child deserves to know her father. How convenient for her. Mom, I'm sorry, but you can't blame me for being suspicious. Grace stood and walked to the window. This woman disappears from your life, then suddenly reappears with a baby that she claims is yours. She's not claiming anything. Maya is mine. One look at her and you'd know it. She has my eyes, my smile, my... He stopped, taking a breath. I know you're trying to protect me, but you're wrong about Naomi. She's not trying to trap me or use me. She's just trying to do right by our daughter. Our daughter. His mother repeated the words slowly. So, you're back together then? No, not yet. Maybe not ever. That's up to Naomi. But I'm going to be in Maya's life regardless. She's my daughter, and I love her. And I'd really like it if you could meet her. Both of them. Grace turned from the window, her expression softening slightly. You're serious about this? Completely serious. This is the most important thing I've ever done. She studied him for a long moment. Then she sighed. All right. If you want me to meet them, I will. But Ethan, her voice turned firm. If this girl is planning to hurt you or take advantage of you, she's not. I promise you she's not. His mother didn't look entirely convinced, but she nodded. When did you want to do this? Maybe dinner this weekend, Saturday evening? I could bring them here. Here? Grace looked around her formal sitting room. Wouldn't a restaurant be better, more neutral? I want you to meet them in a comfortable setting, and I want Maya to see where I grew up. He stood. Please, Mom. This matters to me. Fine. Saturday evening at 6, but I'm making no promises about anything beyond that. It wasn't enthusiastic support, but it was something. Ethan hugged his mother goodbye and headed back to his car. Now he just had to tell Naomi about the dinner invitation. He hoped she'd agree to come. Friday evening, Ethan arrived at Naomi's apartment with takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant. He'd remembered her usual order, pad Thai with extra vegetables, spring rolls, mango sticky rice for dessert. The fact that he'd remembered made her smile when she opened the door. You're going to spoil me, she said, taking the bags from him. That's the plan. Maya was in her high chair banging a sippy cup against the tray. When she saw Ethan, she threw the cup on the floor and reached for him, chanting, "Dada, dada, dada!" He picked her up and spun her around gently, making her shriek with laughter. Then he kissed the top of her head and settled her back in the high chair. Let your mama eat her dinner first, Maya Bear, then we'll play. They ate together at the small table. Maya munched on pieces of plain rice and steamed broccoli, occasionally throwing bits on the floor. Ethan found himself completely content, sitting in this small apartment eating takeout. It was better than any fancy restaurant he'd been to. So I talked to my mother, he said during a lull in conversation. Naomi looked up from her pad Thai. Oh? I told her about Maya, about you, about everything. How did she take it? About as well as expected. She's suspicious of your motives, worried you're trying to trap me, all that fun stuff. He grimaced. I'm sorry, I know she wasn't always the warmest to you before. She definitely cooled off toward the end, Naomi said diplomatically. I got the impression she didn't think I was good enough for you. That's ridiculous. You were always too good for me. Ethan, I mean it. He set down his fork. But here's the thing. I want her to meet Maya, to see what an incredible job you've done raising her. And I was hoping you'd both come to dinner at her house tomorrow night. 6 o'clock. Naomi's eyes widened. Tomorrow? That's really soon. I know. And I understand if you're not comfortable with it. We can wait, or we can meet somewhere else, somewhere more neutral. No, it's fine. She took a breath. I mean, she's Maya's grandmother. She should meet her. She looked down at her plate. Your mom never liked me much, Ethan. And now I'm showing up with a baby she didn't know existed. She's not going to be happy. She'll come around when she sees Maya. Who could resist this face? He made a silly expression at Maya, who giggled and threw a piece of rice at him. Naomi laughed, despite her obvious nerves. Okay, we'll come to dinner, but if it gets awkward, we'll leave. I promise. I won't let her make you uncomfortable. Your mother is very good at making people uncomfortable without being overtly rude. I know, but I'll be right there with you. We're in this together. The words hung in the air between them. Together. It was starting to feel true. Not just co-parenting, but actually being together in some way that was still forming, still fragile but growing stronger. After dinner, they gave Maya a bath together. Ethan held her steady while Naomi shampooed her curls. Maya splashed water everywhere, soaking both of them. Naomi's white t-shirt was plastered to her skin, and Ethan tried very hard not to stare. He focused on Maya instead, on her joy, on the simple pleasure of this moment. When Maya was clean and dressed in pajamas, Ethan read her bedtime story. Tonight it was a book about farm animals. Maya pointed at each animal and tried to make their sounds. Her moo sounded more like ooh and her ba was just a long ah, but Ethan praised every attempt. "She's so smart," he murmured as he tucked her into the crib, "just like her mama." Maya's eyes were already closing. He kissed her forehead gently. "Good night, Maya Bear, I love you." The words came easily now. He'd said them every night this week, and each time they felt more real. He loved this little person more than he'd known it was possible to love anyone. Naomi was waiting in the doorway. In the soft light from the hallway, she looked younger, vulnerable, beautiful. "You're really good with her," she said, as they walked back to the living room. "I'm trying. I still feel like I'm figuring it out." "That's what all parents feel. You're doing great." She sat on the couch, tucking her legs under her. "I never thought—" She stopped. "Never thought what?" "I never thought you'd be this present, this dedicated. I thought you might visit a few times, send money, be a father in name only. But you're really here, really trying. I told you I would be." "I know, but actions speak louder than words." She looked at him seriously. "You're changing my mind about you, Ethan, about us, and that scares me." His heart started beating faster. "Why does it scare you?" "Because I'm starting to hope again, and hope is dangerous when you've been hurt before." He wanted to move closer, to take her hand, to tell her that her hope wasn't misplaced, but he held back. She needed to come to him in her own time. He couldn't push. "I won't hurt you again," he said softly. "I know you've heard that before, but I mean it this time. You and Maya, you're my family. That's all I want, to be part of this family." Naomi's eyes glistened. "Ask me in a few months, after you've been through some hard days, after Maya's been sick all night or having a tantrum in the grocery store, after the newness wears off, then we'll see if you still feel the same way." "I will. I promise you, I will." She didn't answer, just gave him a small, hopeful smile that made his chest ache. He left soon after, but not before she walked him to the door and squeezed his hand briefly. It was the first intentional touch between them since the airport, and it sent electricity up his arm. Tomorrow night was going to be important. He just hoped his mother would see what he saw, that Naomi was an incredible woman who'd done something amazing by raising Maya alone, that they were lucky she was giving them a chance to be part of their daughter's life. Saturday evening arrived too quickly. Ethan showed up at Naomi's apartment at 5:15, giving them plenty of time to get to his mother's house. He'd dressed carefully, slacks and a button-down shirt, something that said he was taking this seriously without being too formal. Naomi answered the door looking beautiful, but nervous. She wore a simple navy dress and had her hair down in loose curls. Maya was in a pink dress with white tights, her hair pulled up with a small bow. "You both look amazing," Ethan said. "I changed 3 times, Naomi admitted. "I didn't know what to wear to meet your mother. Again, while carrying the granddaughter she doesn't know about. You look perfect. She's going to love you both." He wasn't sure if he believed that, but he wanted to. Lena emerged from the bedroom, giving Ethan a long, assessing look. He'd met her briefly earlier in the week when she'd stopped by. She'd been polite but cool, clearly protective of her friend. "I still think this is a bad idea," Lena said. "His mom never liked you before. Why would she like you now?" "Because now there's Maya," Naomi said. "She's her granddaughter." Lena didn't look convinced. She turned to Ethan. "If your mother makes Naomi cry, you and I are going to have problems." "Fair enough," Ethan said, "but I won't let that happen." "You better not." But Lena's expression softened slightly. "Fine, go to your dinner, but text me if you need an escape plan." They made their way to Ethan's car, a sleek black Mercedes that Naomi eyed with obvious discomfort. He'd forgotten how different their worlds looked from the outside. He helped secure Maya's car seat, which they'd transferred from Naomi's beat-up Honda, and then held the door for Naomi. The drive to Buckhead took 20 minutes through evening traffic. Naomi was quiet, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Maya babbled in the back seat, perfectly content. "My mother can be intense," Ethan said as they pulled up to the gates. "But underneath it, she's not a bad person. She's just protective of you, from people like me. There's no people like you. There's just you, and you're wonderful." He reached over and squeezed her hand briefly. "We'll get through this together." The gates opened, and he drove up the long driveway. Naomi's eyes widened as the house came into view. "You grew up here?" "Yeah. It's a bit much, isn't it?" "It's beautiful, it's just—" She looked down at her dress. "I feel underdressed." "You look perfect," he repeated. "Come on, let's get this over with." He got Maya out of her car seat. She immediately grabbed his tie and tried to put it in her mouth. He gently redirected her, then took Naomi's hand and led them both to the front door. Grace opened it before they could knock. She was dressed elegantly in grey slacks and a white blouse, her silver hair perfectly styled. Her eyes went immediately to Maya, then to Naomi, then back to Maya. "Well," she said after a long moment, "she certainly has the Walker eyes." It wasn't a warm greeting, but it wasn't hostile either. Ethan took it as a good sign. "Mom, you remember Naomi, and this is Maya, your granddaughter." "Hello, Mrs. Walker," Naomi said quietly. "Thank you for having us." Grace stepped back, allowing them inside. "Come in, dinner is almost ready." The house looked exactly as Ethan remembered. Formal, elegant, expensive. Naomi looked around with wide eyes, clearly out of her element. Maya squirmed in his arms, reaching for the chandelier hanging in the entryway. "Pretty," Maya said, one of her new words. "Yes, it is pretty," Grace said, looking at her granddaughter with an unreadable expression. "She talks." "A little," Naomi said, mostly single words. "Mama? Dada? More?" "No, the usual." "And she's 1 year old?" "Yes, she turned 1 last month." Grace nodded slowly. "She's small for her age." "The doctor says she's perfectly healthy," Naomi said, a slight edge to her voice, "just on the smaller side of the growth chart." "I'm sure she is." Grace turned and walked toward the dining room. "Shall we eat?" Dinner was tense. Grace had made pot roast with vegetables, and the table was set formally with the good china. They'd brought Maya's high chair from the car, which looked out of place in the elegant dining room. Grace watched with pursed lips as they settled Maya into it. "I hope you don't mind that we brought her chair," Ethan said. "She's not great at sitting in regular chairs yet." "It's fine." But Grace's tone suggested it was not, in fact, fine. They ate in awkward silence for the first few minutes. Maya munched on small pieces of carrot and potato, occasionally banging her spoon on the high chair tray. Each bang made Grace flinch slightly. "So, Naomi," Grace said finally. "Ethan tells me you work at a bookstore." "Yes, ma'am, downtown. I've been there for 2 years." "And you're raising a child on a bookstore salary?" "Mom," Ethan warned. "I'm just asking a question, Ethan." Grace turned back to Naomi. "It must be difficult, financially." "We manage," Naomi said evenly. "I also sell jewelry online, and my mother helps sometimes." "But you must have expenses, childcare, medical bills, diapers, formula." "I breastfed for the first 9 months, Naomi interrupted, "and my neighbor watches Maya while I'm at work. She's a retired teacher who loves children. I pay her what I can and she doesn't ask for more." Her voice was calm but firm. "I've taken care of my daughter just fine, Mrs. Walker. I don't need anyone's pity." "I wasn't offering pity," Grace said coolly. "I was simply observing that raising a child alone is challenging." "You're right, it is challenging, but I did it, and I'd do it again, because Maya is worth everything." The two women stared at each other across the table. Ethan felt caught between them, wanting to defend Naomi, but knowing she was handling herself just fine. Maya broke the tension by throwing a piece of potato directly at Grace. It landed on her white blouse, leaving a small grease stain. Grace looked down at it in shock. "Oh my God," Naomi gasped. "I'm so sorry. She's been throwing food lately. We're working on it." But then something unexpected happened. Grace started laughing. Not a polite chuckle, but a real, genuine laugh. "Well," she said, dabbing at the stain with her napkin, "I suppose that's what I get for wearing white to dinner with a 1-year-old. She looked at Maya, who was grinning proudly, and her expression softened. "You have good aim, young lady." The tension in the room eased slightly. Naomi visibly relaxed, and Ethan felt like he could breathe again. "She's spirited," Grace continued. "That's a Walker trait. Ethan used to throw food too. Drove his father crazy." "Really?" Naomi looked at Ethan with surprise. "Oh yes. There's a very unfortunate photo of him at 18 months, covered head to toe in spaghetti. He dumped an entire bowl over his head." Grace actually smiled at the memory. "His father said he was going to frame it and show it at Ethan's wedding." Ethan felt his throat tighten. His father had died 5 years ago before he'd met Naomi, before Maya. He would have loved being a grandfather. He would have adored her, Grace said quietly, as if reading his mind. She looked at Maya with something that might have been affection. "May I hold her?" "Of course," Naomi said. Grace stood and carefully lifted Maya from the high chair. She carried her to the sitting area off the dining room, settling into a chair with the baby in her lap. Maya looked up at her grandmother with curious eyes, reaching up to touch her face. "Hello, Maya," Grace said softly. "I'm your grandmother, though I suppose you can call me Grandma Grace when you're old enough to talk properly." Maya patted Grace's cheek and said, "Gamma." Grace's eyes widened. "Did she just—" "She's good at picking up new words," Naomi said, moving to sit nearby. "She probably heard you say grandma and tried to repeat it." "Gamma," Maya said again, pleased with herself. "That's right," Grace whispered. "I'm Gamma." She looked up at Ethan and he was shocked to see tears in her eyes. "She's beautiful, Ethan. Absolutely beautiful." "She is," he agreed, relief washing through him. Grace spent the next half hour playing with Maya, bringing out toys that she'd apparently kept from when Ethan was a child. Old wooden blocks, a stuffed bear with one eye, a set of plastic keys that rattled. Maya loved them all, especially the bear, which she hugged tight. "That was Ethan's favorite," Grace said to Naomi. "He called it Mr. Bear, very creative." Her tone was dry but warm. "Maya's not very creative with names either," Naomi said. "She calls her elephant Effie." "Effie," Maya repeated, as if summoned. She looked around for her elephant, which they'd left in the car. "It's in the car, sweetie," Ethan said. "We'll get it before we go home." Home. The word felt right, even though he didn't live with them, even though that small apartment wasn't his. It was where they were, so it was home. Grace watched him with his daughter, and something in her expression shifted. When Naomi took Maya to change her diaper before they left, Grace pulled Ethan aside. "I was wrong about her," she said simply. "About Naomi. Mom, let me finish. I was wrong. I thought she wasn't right for you because she came from a different world, because she didn't fit into our society. But watching her tonight, the way she holds herself, the way she's raised that beautiful child," Grace shook her head. "She has more dignity and strength than half the women in our social circle. And Maya," her voice caught, "I have a granddaughter, Ethan. A beautiful granddaughter." "You do," he said softly. "Don't lose them again." Grace gripped his arm. "Whatever it takes, whatever you have to change or sacrifice, don't lose them. Family is everything. I learned that when your father died. Don't wait until it's too late to figure it out." "I won't, I promise." When Naomi returned with Maya, Grace hugged her, actually hugged her, and said, "Thank you for bringing her to meet me, and for doing such a wonderful job raising her." Naomi looked stunned. "Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Please call me Grace." She touched Maya's cheek gently. "Will you bring her back, soon?" "Of course," Naomi said. "Whenever you'd like." As they drove back to Naomi's apartment, Maya fell asleep in her car seat, exhausted from all the excitement. Naomi turned in her seat to look at Ethan. "That went better than I expected," she said. "My mother isn't always easy, but she's not heartless." Once she saw Maya, he smiled. "Nobody can resist Maya. She called me Naomi instead of that girl or Ethan's ex. That's progress. She called you strong and dignified. That's about the highest compliment my mother gives." Naomi was quiet for a moment. "Your family has so much, Ethan. This huge house, nice things, connections, money, and I'm just—" She gestured to herself. "I'm just me, a bookstore worker living in a small apartment. Sometimes I wonder if Maya would be better off—" "Don't," he interrupted firmly. "Don't finish that sentence. Maya is better off with you, with the love you give her, the time you spend with her, the person you are. Money doesn't make someone a good parent. Showing up does. Being present does. Loving unconditionally does. And you do all of that better than anyone I know." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for saying that. I mean it. Every word." He pulled up in front of her building. "Come on, let's get this sleepy girl inside." They moved Maya from the car to the crib without waking her. A small miracle. In the quiet apartment, with Maya safely asleep, they stood in the living room not quite knowing what to do next. "Thank you for tonight," Naomi said. "For being there, for defending me to your mother. You didn't need me to defend you. You handled yourself perfectly. Still, it meant a lot." She stepped closer. "You're really doing it, Ethan. Everything you said you would. You're showing up. You're being present. You're—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "You're making it very hard for me not to fall for you again." His heart stopped. "Is that a bad thing? I don't know yet." But she was smiling slightly. "Ask me again in another month." "I will. And a month after that. And every month until you have an answer. That might take a while. I've got time. All the time in the world." They stood close, So close he could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes, close enough that he could lean down and kiss her. He wanted to, God, he wanted to, but he held back. This had to be her choice, her timing. "Good night, Naomi," he said softly. "Good night, Ethan." He left before he could do something stupid, before he could push too hard too fast, but as he drove home he felt lighter than he had in years. Hope was a powerful thing, and for the first time since the airport, he believed they might actually make it. All three of them, together. The weeks that followed fell into a comfortable rhythm. Ethan came by most evenings after work, often bringing dinner or groceries. On weekends, they explored the city together. Parks, the zoo, children's museums. Maya grew more attached to him every day, calling for Dada whenever he walked through the door. Grace surprised everyone by becoming a regular presence too. She came by on Wednesday afternoons to watch Maya while Naomi worked. At first, Naomi had been hesitant, but Grace was so genuinely eager to spend time with her granddaughter that she couldn't refuse. And watching them together, Grace reading stories in her formal way while Maya climbed all over her, made Naomi's heart soften toward the older woman. "Your mother is good with her," Naomi told Ethan one evening as they cleaned up after dinner. "She called me yesterday to ask what kind of educational toys she should buy," Ethan said, grinning. "She's read 3 books on child development. She's taking this grandmother thing very seriously. She bought Maya a savings bond. Did you know that? For her college fund. That sounds like my mother." Naomi dried a plate thoughtfully. "I never expected this, any of this. I thought I'd be raising Maya alone forever, and now suddenly there's you, and your mom, and this whole family forming around us. It's overwhelming sometimes. Good overwhelming or bad overwhelming? I'm not sure yet." She set the plate in the cabinet. "Good, I think. Mostly good. It's just..." She turned to face him. "I'm scared, Ethan. Really scared. Because if this doesn't work out, it's not just me getting hurt this time. It's Maya, too. She loves you. If you left..." "I won't leave." He moved closer, taking her hands in his. "I know you're scared. I know I gave you every reason to be, but I'm not going anywhere. I promise you that. People make promises they can't keep all the time. Then let me prove it, however long it takes." She looked up at him, searching his face for any sign of doubt or hesitation. Whatever she saw there must have reassured her, because she squeezed his hands and nodded. "Okay, keep proving it." 3 months after the airport reunion, Marcus cornered Ethan at the office. "We need to talk," Marcus said, closing the door to Ethan's office. "That sounds ominous." "It's not. It's just..." Marcus sat down across from him. "The London office has been asking for you. The Tokyo deal needs your signature. The investors in New York want a face-to-face meeting. And you keep saying no to everything." "I know. You haven't traveled for work in 3 months." "I know that too." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "I'm not complaining. You've been delegating well, and honestly, the company is doing fine without you micromanaging everything. But I want to make sure you're okay with this, that you're not going to wake up in 6 months resenting the choices you've made." Ethan thought about it. 3 months ago, the idea of turning down a trip to London would have been unthinkable. The business had been everything. His identity, his purpose, his excuse for everything else. Now he thought about Maya's laugh when he made funny faces, about the way Naomi hummed while she cooked dinner, about Sunday mornings at the park watching his daughter chase pigeons, about the life he was building piece by piece, moment by moment. "I'm not going to resent it," he said firmly. "For the first time in my life, I've got my priorities straight. The business will survive without me flying around the world every week. My daughter won't get these years back. And Naomi? What about her? Are you two together? Or is this still just co-parenting?" Ethan sighed. "I don't know. We're somewhere in between. She's still scared I'll revert to my old ways, and I'm trying to be patient, to let her come to me when she's ready. But Marcus," he ran his hand through his hair, "I'm in love with her. More now than I was before. And every day I have to hold myself back from telling her that because I don't want to pressure her. That sounds exhausting." "It is. But she's worth it. They both are." Marcus studied him for a long moment. "You've changed, man, in a good way. You seem, I don't know, like a real person now instead of a walking spreadsheet." Ethan laughed. "Thanks, I think. It's a compliment. Keep doing what you're doing. The business will be fine. Your family is what matters." After Marcus left, Ethan sat at his desk thinking. His family, that's what they were becoming, even if they weren't official yet. Even if Naomi still kept a careful distance between them. They were his family, and nothing else came close to mattering as much. One Saturday in early September, they took Maya to the park for a late afternoon picnic. The weather was perfect, warm but not hot, with a gentle breeze. They spread a blanket under a large oak tree, while Maya toddled around on unsteady legs, having recently started walking. "She's going to fall," Naomi said nervously as Maya stumbled over a root. "She's okay. She needs to figure out her balance." But Ethan stayed close, ready to catch her if needed. Maya made it to the tree trunk and patted it triumphantly. "Tree. That's right, baby girl. Big tree." Naomi pulled out sandwiches from their cooler. "Come eat lunch." They ate together, Maya sitting in Ethan's lap and stealing bites of his sandwich. Other families dotted the park, couples with children, groups of friends, elderly people walking dogs. Normal Saturday life. A photographer wandered past, a young woman with a professional camera. She stopped near their blanket. "Excuse me," she said. "I'm doing a project on Atlanta families. Would you mind if I took your photo?" Naomi started to shake her head, but Ethan said, "Sure, that would be nice." "Really?" Naomi looked uncertain. "Why not? Let's have a record of this day." The photographer positioned them, Ethan and Naomi sitting close on the blanket with Maya between them. At the last second, Maya turned and wrapped her arms around both their necks, pulling them together. The photographer snapped several shots. "Beautiful," she said, showing them the preview on her camera. "You're a lovely family. I'll email these to you." After she left, Naomi was quiet. Ethan could see her processing something, working through some internal struggle. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That woman called us a family. We are a family, aren't we?" "I don't know what we are." She watched Maya chase a butterfly. "We live separately. We're not together, but we spend almost every day with each other. We co-parent. She gestured helplessly. "I don't know how to define this. Does it need to be defined? Maybe, for Maya's sake. She's getting older. She's going to start asking questions. Why does Daddy leave every night? Why don't we all live together? How do I explain that to her?" Ethan's heart was pounding. "What do you want to tell her?" "I don't know." But the way she was looking at him suggested she did know. She was just scared to say it. "Naomi," he took her hand. "I love you. I'm in love with you. I have been since the first day I saw you again at the airport, and probably long before that. And I know you're scared. I know I have to earn back your trust, but I need you to know how I feel. I want us to be a real family, all three of us together, not just co-parenting, actually together." She was quiet for so long that he thought he'd made a mistake, that he'd pushed too hard, said too much. But then she spoke, her voice soft. "I love you too, I never stopped. But Ethan, love isn't enough. It wasn't enough before. You're right, but I'm not the same person I was before, and I can prove that to you. Move in with me, you and Maya, not to my penthouse. We can find a house together, something that's ours, not mine or yours. A fresh start. That's a big step, I know, and if you're not ready, that's okay. But think about it, please." Maya toddled back to them, dropping into Naomi's lap with a tired sigh. She was getting sleepy, her afternoon nap time approaching. Naomi held her close, and Ethan saw the conflict in her eyes, the desire to believe him warring with the fear of being hurt again. "I'll think about it," she finally said. "I promise I'll think about it." It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. Ethan would take it. 2 weeks later, Ethan got an urgent call from his assistant. There was a crisis at the London property. A contractor had abandoned the project halfway through, leaving them with an unfinished building and angry investors. They needed him there immediately. He sat in his office staring at his phone. The old Ethan would have been on a plane within hours, would have dropped everything to fix the problem personally. But now he thought about Maya's bedtime story that he'd promised to read, about Naomi making dinner for all of them tonight, about the life he'd built over these past months. He called Marcus instead. "I need you to go to London," he said. "What? Ethan, this is your deal. You know this property better than anyone. Then I'll walk you through everything. I'll be on the phone with you the whole time, but I can't go." "Can't or won't?" "Both." He took a breath. "I made a commitment to my family. I'm not breaking it for work. Not anymore." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "All right. Send me everything. I'll handle it. Thank you. But Ethan, you're going to have to tell the investors why you're not coming. They're not going to be happy." "I know. I'll call them myself." The calls were difficult. The investors were frustrated, some of them angry. They'd been working with him for years, and they didn't understand why he was suddenly unavailable. He explained as best he could, family commitments, a new baby, priorities changing. Some of them understood, others hung up annoyed. But when he showed up at Naomi's apartment that evening, on time and ready to read Maya her bedtime story, the look on Naomi's face made everything worth it. I heard about the London emergency, she said quietly after Maya was asleep. Lena saw something about it online. You didn't go. No. You could have gone. Should have gone, probably. I made you a promise. I told you I wouldn't put work first anymore. I meant it. Her eyes filled with tears. You turned down a trip to London to read Maya a bedtime story. I turned down a trip to London to keep my promise to my family. He took her hands. Marcus is handling it. The company will survive, but I only get one chance to be Maya's father. One chance to prove to you that I've changed. I'm not wasting it. She was crying now, but smiling too. You really have changed. I told you I would. I believe you. She stepped closer, wrapping her arms around his waist. I believe you, Ethan. He held her tight, his face buried in her hair. She smelled like vanilla and home. This was what he'd been missing. This connection, this closeness, this feeling of being exactly where he belonged. When she pulled back slightly to look up at him, he saw his answer in her eyes before she even spoke. Ask me again, she whispered. Ask you what? About moving in with you, about being a family. Ask me again. His heart was pounding so hard, he thought she must be able to hear it. Naomi Brooks, will you and Maya move in with me? Will you let me be your partner, not just Maya's father? Will you give us, all three of us, a real chance? Yes. She was smiling and crying at the same time. Yes to all of it. Let's be a family, a real family. He kissed her then. Finally, after months of holding back, of being patient, of waiting for her to be ready, he kissed her like he'd wanted to since the airport, like he'd been dreaming of for 2 years. She kissed him back, her hands in his hair, her body pressed against his. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she laughed. I can't believe I'm doing this, she said. Lena is going to think I'm crazy. Lena will come around. She better, because you're stuck with us now, both of us. That's all I want, all I've ever wanted. They stood together in her small living room, holding each other while their daughter slept peacefully in the next room. Outside, the city hummed with life, but in here, in this moment, everything was perfect. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of house hunting. They looked at places together, Naomi, Ethan, and Maya. He let Naomi have final say on everything, making it clear this was their home, not just his. She chose a beautiful house in Virginia Highland, a neighborhood with tree-lined streets and other young families. It was smaller than his penthouse, but infinitely warmer, with a backyard for Maya to play in, and a kitchen that actually felt inviting. Are you sure? Naomi asked, as they stood in the empty living room of their new house. This is a lot less fancy than what you're used to. This is perfect, it's home. They moved in together in October. Grace helped, surprising everyone by rolling up her sleeves and unpacking boxes alongside them. She'd fully embraced her role as grandmother, showing up with toys and books, and unsolicited advice that was actually helpful. You two are good together, Grace told Naomi one afternoon, while Ethan was assembling Maya's new bed. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Thank you, Grace. That means a lot. He's happy. Happier than I've ever seen him. You did that. Grace squeezed her hand. Welcome to the family, officially. Lena remained skeptical but came around after seeing how seamlessly they functioned together. She visited the new house a week after they moved in, watching carefully as Ethan and Naomi moved around each other in the kitchen, preparing dinner together with the easy familiarity of people who knew each other well. Okay, Lena admitted to Naomi while Ethan played with Maya in the living room. He's actually doing it. He's actually changed. I know. I can hardly believe it myself. If he hurts you again, I'm going to hurt him, just so we're clear. Crystal clear. Naomi hugged her friend. Thank you for looking out for me. Always, that's what friends do. On a Saturday in late November, 6 months after the airport reunion, they took Maya to the zoo. She was walking confidently now, toddling from exhibit to exhibit with endless energy. They followed her hand in hand, watching her discover the world. At the elephant exhibit, Maya pressed her face against the glass, completely mesmerized. An elephant walked right up to the window, its trunk reaching out as if to touch her. Maya squealed with delight. Effie! Big Effie! She turned to them, her face glowing with excitement. That's right, baby, a big elephant, just like your Effie at home. Naomi knelt beside her, pointing out details about the elephant. Ethan watched them together and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. 6 months ago, he'd been on his way to London, rushing toward a life that looked successful, but felt empty. Now he was here, at a zoo on a Saturday morning, watching his daughter discover elephants. And it was everything. What are you thinking? Naomi asked, noticing his expression. That I'm the luckiest man alive. She smiled and took his hand. We're all lucky. All three of us. That evening, after Maya was asleep in her new bedroom with its hand-painted murals and overflowing toy chest, Ethan and Naomi sat on their back porch. The fall air was cool but comfortable. They shared a blanket and a bottle of wine, talking quietly about everything and nothing. "Do you ever regret it?" Naomi asked. "Giving up the traveling? The high-powered executive life? Never. Not even for a second." He pulled her closer. "I had all that, and I was miserable. Now I have you and Maya, and I'm happy. Really happy." "Me too." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I spent so long being angry at you, and then scared to trust you again. But now I just feel—" She paused, searching for the word. "Peace, like everything finally makes sense." "I love you," he said. "I know I say it all the time now, but I need you to hear it. I love you so much, Naomi." "I love you too, and I'm so glad you cancelled that flight to London 6 months ago. Best decision you ever made. Second best. The best decision was convincing you to give me another chance." They sat together as the stars came out, planning their future. Maybe a small wedding next year. Maybe another baby someday. Maybe just continuing exactly as they were, happy and together and whole. Inside, Maya slept peacefully, surrounded by people who loved her. Outside, her parents held each other close and counted their blessings. It had been a long road to get here, full of mistakes and pain and separation, but every step had led them to this moment, to this family, to this second chance at the love they'd almost lost. 2 weeks before Christmas, Ethan came home from work to find Naomi in the kitchen looking nervous. Maya was at Grace's house for the afternoon. "Is everything okay?" he asked, setting down his briefcase. "Everything's fine. Great, actually. I have something to tell you, and I'm not sure how you're going to react." His mind immediately went to worst-case scenarios. "What is it?" She took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." Time seemed to stop. "You're... what?" "Pregnant. About 8 weeks. I found out yesterday." She watched his face anxiously. "I know we weren't planning this. I know it's fast. We just moved in together, and Maya's still so young, and..." He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. When he set her down, he was grinning. "Are you serious? We're having another baby. You're happy?" She looked shocked. "Happy? I'm ecstatic. This is amazing." He placed his hand gently on her still flat stomach. "There's a baby in there. Our baby. Our second baby," she corrected, smiling now too. "Maya's going to be a big sister. She's going to love it. And this time," his voice turned serious, "this time I'm going to be here for everything. Every doctor's appointment, every ultrasound, every weird craving at 3 in the morning. I'm going to be the partner you deserved the first time." "You already are." She cupped his face in her hands. "You already are, Ethan." They told Grace and Marcus together over dinner that weekend. Grace cried happy tears and immediately started planning the nursery. Marcus toasted them with champagne, looking genuinely thrilled for his friend. "2 kids, Marcus said, shaking his head in wonder. "A year ago, you didn't even know you had one. Now you're going to have 2. "I know. It's crazy, right?" "It's perfect. You're going to be great at this." "I'm going to try. That's all I can do." They told Maya in a way she could understand, explaining that Mama had a baby in her tummy and she was going to be a big sister. Maya seemed interested mostly in Naomi's belly button, poking it repeatedly and saying, "Baby?" Ethan and Naomi laughed, knowing she'd understand better as Naomi got bigger. Christmas that year was perfect. They decorated the house together, put up a tree, and hung stockings for all 4 of them, including one for the baby who wouldn't arrive until July. Grace hosted Christmas dinner, and the house was full of laughter and warmth. After dinner, as they sat by the fire, Grace proposed a toast. "To family," she said, raising her glass. "To second chances and new beginnings. To Maya and the little one on the way. And to Naomi and Ethan, who found their way back to each other when it mattered most." "To family," they echoed. Ethan looked around the room, at his mother holding Maya, at Naomi with her hand on her barely-there baby bump, at the life they'd built together. It wasn't the life he'd planned. It was better. On a warm evening in late January, almost a year after the airport reunion, Ethan and Naomi sat on their porch after putting Maya to bed. Naomi was 4 months pregnant now, just starting to show. Ethan kept his hand on her belly, feeling for the tiny flutters of movement she'd started to notice. "I got that photo back," Naomi said, "from the photographer at the park, remember? The one who called us a family?" "Yeah." She showed him her phone. The image was beautiful. The 3 of them on the blanket, Maya pulling them together, all of them laughing. They looked happy. They looked like they belonged together. "I love it," Ethan said. "We should frame it. I already ordered a print. It's going to hang in the living room." She paused. "Right next to the photo from the fair. Our beginning and our middle. What about our end?" "We don't have an end. Just more middles. More moments. More memories." She took his hand. "That's what life is, right? A collection of moments. And all our moments from here on out are going to be together." "All of them," he agreed. "I promise you that. I know you do, and I believe you." She kissed him softly. "Thank you for canceling that flight, for coming after us, for proving that people really can change. Thank you for leaving the door open, for giving me a chance, for believing in us." They sat together as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully, and inside Naomi, their second child grew, preparing to join a family built on forgiveness, patience, and love. It had started with a glimpse in an airport, a moment of recognition that changed everything. Ethan had been rushing toward a plane, toward a life that looked full but felt empty, and then he'd seen them, Naomi and the baby, with his eyes, and everything had stopped. He'd made a choice in that moment, to stay, to fight, to prove himself worthy of a second chance, and Naomi had made a choice too, to let him in, to risk her heart again, to believe that love, when combined with action and commitment, could heal even the deepest wounds. They'd built something beautiful from broken pieces. A family, a home, a future filled with possibility. As stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Ethan thought about the photo from the airport in his wallet, a candid shot someone had taken of their first conversation at the cafe. Naomi holding Maya, both of them looking at him with careful hope. He'd kept it all these months, a reminder of where they'd started. Now they had a whole house full of photos, moments captured and preserved, evidence of a love story that had stumbled, fallen, and found its way back to solid ground. "What are you thinking about?" Naomi asked. "Just how far we've come, how grateful I am." He pulled her close. "And how much I'm looking forward to everything that comes next. The sleepless nights with a newborn, the terrible twos, the teenage years, all of it, every single moment, the hard parts and the easy parts, because I'll be going through them with you." She smiled and settled against him, his arms wrapped around her and their growing baby. This was home. This was family. This was everything that mattered. The door opened behind them and Maya appeared, rubbing her eyes. She must have woken from a dream. She spotted them and toddled over, climbing into Ethan's lap. "Dada," she said, her voice sleepy. "Mama, we're right here, baby girl," Naomi said softly. "We're not going anywhere." "Love you," Maya mumbled, already drifting back to sleep against Ethan's chest. "We love you too," they said together. And sitting there with his daughter in his arms and the woman he loved by his side, Ethan knew with absolute certainty that he'd found his way home. Not to a place, but to people. To the family he'd always needed, but hadn't known how to keep. Until now. Until Naomi had been brave enough to let him try again. Until he'd been humble enough to admit his mistakes. Until they'd both chosen to believe that second chances, when earned and honored, could lead to forever. The future stretched out before them, full of promise and possibility. There would be challenges, there always were, but they would face them together, as partners, as parents, as a family, and that made all the difference. The end.